Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristietobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? On today's Fearlessly Made You podcast, we have a special guest who is near and dear to my heart, Claire Campbell. Claire is the owner of Ride Society of Pensacola, which if there isn't a better place that truly represents being fearless and fierce, Ride Society is one of those places. And I am just so excited for you all to get the chance to get to know the wonderful woman that is Claire. Claire, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Well, Kristie, thank you for having me. I can't believe we're here after all this time. The book is here, and thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a privilege to be able to speak with you today.
Oh my goodness, girl. Mm-hmm. It is a privilege to speak with you. And it's so fun that you mentioned the book, because one of the things that you and I have talked about is, what it means to be fearlessly made and the whole process and the inspiration behind the book. And we've talked about what that means as part of Ride Society. And, I really want to dive into that and just for you guys to know, Ride Society is, you're riding bikes in the dark, but it's not just that. You're riding to the rhythm of the beat, and you're really getting a chance to release. And I think that's one of the things that I love about Claire, and I love about what she represents and who she is as a person, is she really focuses on how are you using movement? How are you using that to help you progress forward in your life? And so, Claire, you can tell people that better than I can. I would love for you to share just a little bit about who you are. Talk to us about your journey, just so we get to know a little bit more about this fearless woman that is you.
Well, thank you so much. And literally everything you stand for and epitomize is what we are at Ride Society. And you hit the nail on the head. Long story short, from Pensacola, I grew up here. I moved to New York City to study film, and actually grew up in this space here at the Pensacola Little Theater. I came up in the children's chorus and doing, local theater productions in the summertime. And so it's really amazing and surreal to full 360 be back in this building. I moved to New York to pursue a career in television. I wound up in advertising and had some amazing creative opportunities there. So really just those foundations of creative pursuits as a kid took me to New York and led me to a lot of amazing opportunities up there. Living in a crazy city, you have to find your outlets, right? Working in television and crazy, agency hours, I needed to find my release. And I actually was after a terrible breakup. A girlfriend was like, come with me to this thing called Soul Cycle, the spin class. Yes. And I was like, I honestly didn't know what it was, but I was like, okay, we're going to go work out. And it was truly, it was an experience that I'll truly never forget. It's probably my love for music and cinema. It was just so dramatic to be moving with all these people in a dark room and feeling the energy of all these strangers, but we were writing as one. And I just had this epiphany, and I found myself crying on that very first class, because you know how it is. We call it the spin cry.
Yes, it's a thing. A spin cry is a thing.
It's a thing. And, and also I think why I fell in love with it too is just the production element, which we talk a lot about. It is we treat every class like a show of sorts. Yes. And so anyway, I left feeling totally exhilarated to having found something that was going to bring me a little peace and sanity in that crazy city. And over time, I got more and more into it. And even though my life was crazy, and I unfortunately didn't have a regular schedule, and to be perfectly honest, I found myself 12 years later in New York and kind of looking around, wondering what I was still doing there. But I just found myself in a rut. While my work was very fulfilling and rewarding in a lot of ways, something was speaking to me inside, saying, you're not really happy here anymore. And your path needs to shift. Something needs to change. So I found myself coming home a lot during that period. If I had time off, I would book a flight to Pensacola. And around that period, downtown Pensacola was undergoing an incredible renaissance. I was amazed at all of the new business, all of the new development, all of the young people that were moving here, people like you, and people, really taking a chance on our community and starting small businesses, and leaders in our community who were taking chances on young entrepreneurs and really guiding that way. And so I really just re-fell in love with my hometown. Sure, we have beautiful beaches and it is paradise. And trust me, every time getting on the plane back to cold New York City and like looking out over the water, I'm like, what am I doing? So Kristie, like literally, it was one day I was having lunch at Carmen's on Palafox Street.
Yes,
our favorite.
It's our favorite.
It's our
place.
favorite.
Not that we're doing a shameless plug, but
no,
it's delicious.
Carmen's, it is our favorite. The soda bread, get it. Anyway,
Yes.
I was sitting there with my family and I was like, how wonderful would it be to have something like SoulCycle here, you know, and something that I loved so much and became a part of my day to day in New York. And truly, I think it started as a fantasy of like, what could I do in Pensacola? Like, how can I create an opportunity for myself here? Because I wanted to be home.
I love that.
You know, I worked in television, and it was those big opportunities. You know, were not, you know, I don't work in news. I couldn't, you know. Anyway, that's where the idea. I literally sitting on Palafox. I was like, I want to maybe open a spin studio on Palafox and just completely uproot my life and pivot. So that seed of an idea just started to grow. Like I would spend weekends in my apartment in New York writing a business plan, studying other studios. And then that evolved into going to studios and meeting with studio owners and really just educating myself on all of that. And literally it just, Kristie, it got to the point probably over the span of 6 months to a year, truthfully. That's how long I sat on this idea.
Wow.
But it just became so real in my mind and so tangible. And it became something that I could not turn away from. And so I started to put the pieces in place to make it happen. And I'm very, very lucky that I had the support of my friends and family. And I literally, one day I woke up, I quit my job and I packed up my apartment and I moved home to start Ride Society. And so here we are today. And I couldn't be happier, truly, that I was just literally following that inner whisper telling me that, you know, I needed a change, and I just chased my bliss, girl. That's what I say. It's literally on our wall in the studio.
Is.
Chase your bliss. And
I love that that's where that came from. I never knew that.
I had a mentor in New York actually tell me that, a colleague, and, you know, there's something to it. There's something to it. So those are words that I live by, and I try to live by daily.
Claire, your story.
Is that okay? Did I cover it?
Beautiful.
I could keep going. I go all over the place, but
and don't you worry. We're going to keep going. Don't you worry.
Okay.
But the thing that I love about what you said though is you put in work and education to figure out what made sense.
Totally.
Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, and that's something that I've spoken with a lot of entrepreneurs or people looking to set out to start businesses. It's overwhelming, and it's very easy to be motivated and excited about an idea.
Yes.
But, you know, and I'm a creative person and I get ideas all the time. And then often, you know, I'll sit with them for, you know, a couple of weeks, whatever it may be. And I'm like, you know what? Not as passionate about that idea because I let it marinate and like did the research to like, can we make this happen? Whatever. I'm really glad that I did do my homework on that because I felt so prepared, Kristie, what's the expression? When push comes to shove.
Yeah.
Thanks. I was like, we were ready to go. Everything from like knowing what the actual studio space needed to look like. I just felt very prepared because I truly spent a year of like studying and speaking to people and really defining what that vision was going to look like.
You know, and that's something that, to your point, when you're wanting to start something, starting a business, starting something new, a new phase or journey in your life, I think, and especially in this day and age, and I talk about this a lot with people, but so many people are wanting to, okay, well, I'm going to jump here and it's going to be great. And we're going to figure it out. And it's like, but figuring it out isn't necessarily how you actually move forward. Yeah. So you've moved forward. And I almost want to go back just a little bit because
let's do it.
I'm imagining you in New York City. And one thing for you guys to know, when Claire and I first met, the thing we bonded over is that we both lived in New York. So I worked in New York for a year, which is basically like living there for a year. Yeah. And Claire had lived in New York for so long. And when Ride Society was coming to fruition, we talked about that experience and the vibe and the energy. And so it's ironic to me that you're in New York and you're like, yeah, I'm not getting what I need here to move forward. So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, gosh, I know. I never in a million years would have ever thought my path would have led me back to Pensacola, truly. I am a family girl. My family is here. And I honestly, Kristie, I think a lot of it too is nature is just not as easily accessible in New York City. And a lot of people will argue with me on that. But I really just, the fact that I can be in a car and be to the beach in 5 minutes here is, it's not like New York. You got to drive, you got to get on a train, you got to schlep. Like that to me was something that I was lacking. So nature was really important. I don't know. My goal with Ride Society was to bring a piece of New York back with me, right? And that energy. And I felt like there was, I feel like downtown Pensacola has the energy of an up and coming city. And I really wanted to bring what I know and love about New York back to my hometown. So that was really my goal there. But I mean, yeah, what your question was really like, how did I choose to step away?
No, it's kind of, I think you've kind of hit it, to be really honest with you, because it's more of that, the why behind it. And that's, I think about when I was in New York myself, I missed something. Like there was a missing piece.
Yes. Girl, New York wasn't serving me anymore. It was, I spent my 20s there. Which is an incredible place to be in your 20s to learn and grow. I mean, much like how you spoke about in your Behind the Grind podcast about how you were an introvert as a child. I very much relate to you. New York City completely allowed me to blossom and let me be myself and learn, more about who I am than I ever thought possible. But it just wasn't serving me anymore. It really was just like I love it and will always be home in many ways, and you never know what will happen. But it was a hard pill to swallow because so much of who I thought I was going to be was this, successful TV producer living the fast pace. And I woke up and I found myself in that, in that role, but I just, something was missing. There was a missing link. And if I was just being honest with myself, there was, something was calling me back here, and I just listened and I continued to listen and I started to explore that. And that's what really led me to just admit to myself, maybe it's time to close the New York chapter and just try this on. And it's okay to change. It's okay to pivot.
I love that. It's okay to change. It's okay to pivot. I think that's something that we have to be okay with, right? And that's such a hard thing, especially when people have put a timeline on how you're supposed to be successful by certain periods of time, or you're supposed to do all these things. And that's not, and as we think about the whole purpose behind why we're here, why we're having this dialogue, being fearless is not letting fear drive you. And it's also not being without fear. So 100%. There's a certain level of fear.
And I mean, I was right at the intersection of that, right? Like fear of leaving this industry that I had spent years working so hard to climb the ladder, as they say. And I was, it's a terrifying thing to be like, okay, I'm completely jumping ship and going to do something entirely different in another city. But then there was, the fear of accepting that fear. Then there's the fear of like, well, maybe this may not work.
Right.
It very well may not work. Right. And you might have to run back to New York with your tail between your legs and start over. So I definitely, there was fear all around, Kristie, but I embraced it.
I love that.
I embraced the fear, and I just, look, as women, I think we're very intuitive, and I'm constantly, the older I get, the more in check I am with that just gut feeling. And I just followed my gut.
I love that. Well, and you bring up such a beautiful point, which is as you're following your gut, as you're thinking about what serves you and what it means to embrace a journey that maybe no one else has carved before, which really, even though you'd had the chance to, get yourself educated and build a foundation around studios, that wasn't here in Pensacola. No. This is brand new. The vibe is brand new. And, and I'm thinking about people who are like, I hear what you're saying about Ride Society. I know it's bikes.
Yeah.
But as you're thinking about it. Yeah. So what is it? How would you describe it?
I know. It's so, I liken it to meditative cardio. We talked about this.
Yes, we did.
Recently about there's something for many people, for me and like you, I can find stillness in movement. A lot of people have whatever it is for them, running, real road cycling, rhythm riding, Ride Society, we ride to the beat of the music. So we're in a dark room, the lights are super low, the music is loud, and you are in a room full of people that are all riding to the same beat. So it almost feels like dance class,
yes.
but unofficial dance class. But there's something pretty powerful and primal when you move to the beat of the music. There's nothing really more natural, in my opinion. And for me, it's spiritual. It's not, for me, it's not just about getting a workout and like, getting super sweaty. While that's great and that's an incredible release, for me, it is my time to click the reset button. It's my time to really be still with myself.
Yes.
It's not the only time, but it is incredible, I think what can rise within when you make yourself vulnerable to pushing your body, because you're pushing your body, but you're also pushing your mind and your heart. And there's just an incredible sense of community that comes with that when you are riding with a group and group fitness. So yes, it's indoor cycling class. We get sweaty and we work really hard, but to me, it is so much more. And I hope that is what people find when they come to our studio.
I had the experiences in New York of going to Soul Cycle and really enjoying that release, that, just to your point, spiritualness that happens. And, the book that really inspired this podcast is there's a lot of my faith drawn into that. So that really connects with me.
Absolutely.
But something that is uniquely different about Ride Society than any other fitness studio, any other ride studio, is it's you. And there's this passion and this love for people that is so woven into the fabric of how Ride Society operates. And I think that is something so important and something so beautiful for all of you to understand and hear as well. And so it's the question that I ask everyone, and it's the question I ask you as you think about that passion, your ability to infuse it into Ride Society, to infuse it into your art, into your work. How do you do that? And how do you do that in still answering the question, how am I becoming and still maintaining my fearless existence and being fearlessly made?
As I said before, I really believe that what you have written and what you have put in the written word and the spirit of Fearlessly Made You is so much in the fabric of what we are at Ride Society. Literally, my epiphany of just committing to leaving New York and starting this new chapter happened on a spin bike. So for me, it's all, whether we know we're made, I need to get the book. I need to start quoting you in class because literally, it's truly the same. It's the same. It takes a lot of guts to try something new. And we tell all of our new writers that, and you have to make a choice to be fearless every day. And certainly for me, I never thought in a million years that I would teach a spin class, Kristie. I learned very quickly I had to walk the walk. I was going to talk the talk, but so, to me, being fearless is, it's just choosing to trust yourself and choosing to trust your journey. And as I said before, to follow your instincts and to embrace the fear. Yeah.
I love that. And you embrace the fear. I like that. I love that statement of embracing the fear, because I think a lot of people are, for lack of a better word, afraid to embrace the fear because they don't know what's on the other side of it.
Well, that's life. That's every day. We don't know what's coming around the corner. And I just think that you truly, the way I have chosen to live my life, and something that we try to, we preach in our classes, if you will, is that you just have to choose what's going to make you happy. And you can't, if it's scary, that's okay.
Yeah.
And just trust yourself and trust that you know what's best, and just own that journey,
I love that. So when you think about that and the owning of your journey, which I love that you say that, I think about the people that are listening that have been lost, or like you are in a place, or were in a place where they're just like, I'm not really sure if this is fitting me or serving my needs anymore. What would you give if you're thinking about knowledge nuggets, piece of advice or wisdom? What would that look like for you to share?
What? Circling back to our recent conversation, movement. For me personally, when I'm unstable and if I'm feeling just off kilter, I find peace through movement. It grounds me. And often from that place, I then am able to gain clarity, mental clarity, whatever it may be, or just stillness or peace, a little bit of peace. Yes. And I don't know, I just sit in that and wait for, for the answers, if you will. No, but I think that moving is incredibly important. And I have learned in my life that when I was feeling lost and stuck, that movement was the key for me to help clear my head to be unstuck.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, whatever that looks like for you.
And that's exactly it. I think that's so important, is whatever it looks like for you, because it's going to be different for everyone. And when you find yourself in that place of, I've got this place of movement that's bringing me to the peace I need, what are the things for you that you feel like it brings to your life when you can finally get in that kind of unstuck place? Maybe the creative energies, the innovations, the things that happen from it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's amazing how different I feel from the minute I walk into a class to when I'm leaving. I just 100% am like tapping into a creative source that maybe wasn't there before. I'm just a happier person. And what I have learned in my life, Kristie, is that I know to always return to that. Literally, my mom, we have this in common. My mom is my rock. She's my business partner.
She really is.
And she is there. She didn't know how much she was going to be involved. And I was like, I'm moving home. I didn't know either. I know, by the way. Anyway, she, as kids, to my sister and myself, whenever we would come home having a bad day at school, she would say, let's go for a walk. Like, put on your shoes, let's go for a walk. So she instilled in us very early that movement is a form of healing.
I love that.
And that really is a foundation of a principle of Right Society. And we implement music. We say movement is healing and music transports. So I just really welcome that philosophy. And to me, I'm like, amazing things can happen when you just kind of surrender to that, surrender to movement, and like see where it takes you.
That's beautiful, because as you talk about that too, the light that comes into your eyes when you talk about family and how that helped and inspired you. So it brings me to the question of when you aren't at Right Society, when you aren't being a badass businesswoman, what does life look like for you outside of the studio? And what does that look like with your family?
Kristie, that's a great question. And it's actually something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, obviously as a new business owner, and then COVID hitting. Didn't expect that one.
Right.
And maybe if, I ask myself, I'm like, if someone would have forewarned me that would have been on our agenda, like going into year 2, I don't know if I would have done it. I would have totally still done it. I still would have. But no, I'm learning, settling in. We've been open 3 years now, roughly 3 years, which is really mind blowing for me.
I can't believe it's been that long.
It's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
That means I've known you for that long now.
I know.
It's crazy.
I love that.
I love that too. I'm, so much of my identity has been, and my time and energy and my life source has been put into making this business run. And, it's kind of an amazing thing that like watering this little like thing that we planted and have grown. It's kind of like doing its thing now. And I'm like, feel very lucky that I can now take a day or two away and like, look, take a second. Like, I am not entirely of this. This is not my identity. And I'm really actually, to be perfectly vulnerable with you, I'm working through that right now. I'm like, okay, so like, what's next? Of course, I have big dreams for Right Society. I would love to grow it, and who knows what will happen. I need the vaccine. I'm like, that vaccine circulate, and let's see what happens.
Yes.
But I try to move my body in other ways. I'm really like, I need to do more yoga. I love yoga. In fact, yoga was one of the things I did in New York that was really grounding for me as well, if I wasn't at a spin class. So I try to move. I try to spend as much time. I'm very lucky. My family's here. My grandparents retired here a few years ago, so I get to spend a lot of time with them, catching up on what feels like years that I missed out when I was busy working in New York and missed family reunions, etc. So, that's really where I've been putting my time and energy, is just, truthfully enjoying Pensacola and the fruits that Pensacola has to offer, and enjoying a really healthy work-life balance, because I did not have that in the city.
I love that. Yeah. And that's part of being
and not being
fearless,
ashamed of it.
That's like exactly it.
We talk about this, I definitely am like, I like to always be working towards something or creating something, but I'm learning in my 30s to just chill and enjoy a glass of wine every now and again, and
that
to just settle in. Yeah, it's hard, especially especially, I mean, you get it. If you're always on the run and you're always, there's always going to be something to worry about or to do or, and so it's becoming I'm becoming a lot better at just chilling, actually. Yeah.
That's
and I'm embracing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find like as you're in these moments of finally being able to take a breath and breathe a little bit and chill and find the beauties in life, that you're also finding opportunities to help uplift other people who are either on a similar journey, or I think about people that are in the studio that you brought into your family?
I mean, if nothing else, I'm able to restore so that I can show up better for the studio whether I'm teaching or, meeting with my team or hanging out with my family. It's so important. And I think that finally that conversation is shifting. I just feel like we've grown up in a culture where it's like work. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially in New York, it's like you just, the first question at a dinner party is, what do you do?
Yes.
And I'm really learning, to your previous question, I'm learning to really disassociate myself with letting my studio be my only identity,
That's good. That's so good.
And just, enjoying life, girlfriend.
Yes.
COVID's kind of taught me that.
It hasn't it though? Well, and you've started talking a little bit about the impact that COVID did have on your business. In 2020, the innovative focus that you had in 2020 with Ride Society is still admirable. So tell me a little bit as we're thinking about, because we've kind of come full circle. We've talked about where you came from and that you refused to be stuck. Yeah. And you kind of pushed yourself to own that journey and to be fearless in that existence of, I don't have to sit here anymore. No. And so now, flash forward, we're in a place where you've got a new business that's been thriving, and now you're in a stuck that you 100% couldn't have even figured out.
Gosh, that's like you just that's entirely where we are.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a different type of stuck, right? Yeah. So it's frustrating. We are still operating at half capacity because COVID is still here and we're trying to be safe. And, we did, like many other studios around the world, we rented our bikes out and we transitioned to digital online classes. And then once everything was able to reopen, we've slowly been, reopening and rebuilding from there. And we've been very lucky because we have an incredible ride community, as you well know.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to the day that we can, kind of resume. I don't think it's ever going to look like what it looked like before COVID.
Right.
And so that's part of the growing process right now, is like I'm just anticipating what when we do get back to normal, whatever that is, it's what will that look like for our studio, and where do I put my attention right now so that we can continue to grow in a COVID world?
I love, and it's so interesting to me because when we first met, it was literally in Ride Society, like in the halls, and you were building.
It wasn't even done, right?
No, not
we
at
were
all.
in the build out phase.
And there was such energy and excitement, and that is still there. But there is a level of growth and maturity that I feel like I've seen in your progression, in your journey, where the irony is the timing of when COVID hits. And, I think for all of us, we can say no one was expecting COVID by any means.
No.
But the timing, it's amazing the growth that you are at, because you're able to make these decisions that you probably wouldn't have been able to make had you decided to do this earlier.
Oh,
which is amazing to me to think about.
No, I know. It really is incredible to process all that's happened in that time frame, and like when things happen and why. But we really have just, as a small business owner, we've accepted that this is the way it is, and I'm so lucky to have an amazing team, and we are, I feel lucky that we are thriving in a COVID world, and I'm just, I look forward to the future.
I love that. Well, Claire, the great thing about you is you do epitomize what it means to just be fearless and embrace fear. I love that you said that is embracing fear and really allowing your fearlessly made journey to help drive not only what it looks like for you to move forward, but what it looks like for other people to move forward. And as we think about that, you said something really important, which was also giving yourself the chance to breathe and to take those breaks and to chill. And and guys, I know you knew this question is coming. As we think about that and that balance for you, my question that I have for you, what type of wine or glass of wine can you not live without?
Such a great question.
Right?
So I wish, those 6 a.m. classes keep me on a schedule.
And let's be honest, guys, we were tempted to have wine during this conversation. Let's be real honest.
It's easy to have a good time with you, Kristie.
Yes.
actually my mentor in New York City. She brought me on the French rosé kick many years ago. And I love sitting al fresco in New York City in the sun, treating myself to a nice chilled glass of a rosé from Provence is my wine.
Love it.
So you just let me know. We'll make our way back over to Carmen's. I know she's got one on the menu.
She does. That's what we're doing after this, let's be honest. No, just kidding, guys. Claire, it has been a joy, a treasure, a treat. I adore you. You know that.
I adore you more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being just epitomizing the spirit of what Right Society stands for being a friend and a mentor to so many in our community and your leadership. And I wish you all the best with Fearlessly Made You, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you guys. Stay tuned for the next episode of Fearlessly Made You.